Okay.
Call the meeting to order. Moved by Councillor Keo, seconded by Councillor Kotick. Resolved that the regular meeting commence at the hour of 7 p.m. And be it further resolved that council acknowledges that we are meeting in the Robinson Spirit Treaty area on lands that have been traditionally used by several indigenous nations. But we would like to pay special recognition to our closest indigenous neighbors, the community of Bigdigon Nishnawbek and Pic-Mobert First Nations. We wish to recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people in our regions specifically and show respect to them today. All in favor? Okay, additions or deletions to the agenda?
There is one deletion of agenda item number 0501, presentation with Jason Sear, General Manager, Barrick Hemlo, regarding community update. There is one addition to agenda item number 1203, administration report TR 2023-03, did not attach to agenda posted on June 30th, 2023.
Thank you. Okay, any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Kotick, seconded by Councillor Keo. Resolved that the agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? Okay, delegations and presentations. Okay, moved by Councillor Kotick, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that council has been provided a delegation from Dougal Media regarding a request for assistance for CFNO repeater in Manasquash. And we welcome.
Very good. Thank you very much. Is Hector, Al, and Lynn there?
Yes.
I just want to start off by saying thank you very much to Mayor Moffat and the Township of Manitouwadge for allowing us to be here today. And thank you also to the residents of Manitouwadge for allowing us to enter our plea today.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So with us today, we have, well, first off, the man who needs no introduction, Mr. Al Cresswell. But also joining us today is our Chief Engineer, Chris DeRoda, Derek Lennox, our Chief Financial Officer. And as she reminds us very often, our boss, Lynn, back there, she told me I couldn't do this on Zoom today, that we all had to be here. So she's got Al and I on the table. So thank you very much. So I want to start off again. This is our second time that we've come in front of town council. Sometimes projects seems like they move ahead rather slowly, but we've been doing a lot of work both with the township and on our own since that period of time. And I just want to give you a little bit of update as we try to crystallize our project and try to make it more viable and feasible moving forward. Just to sort of recap, we operate a number of radio stations and other media throughout Northwestern Ontario. Specifically here, we have Superior North Newswatch, which is our new web portal along with CFNO Radio. Our vision is and will continue to be an integral part of a growing and thriving Northwestern Ontario, and will remain a responsible, independent voice for the communities of Northwestern Ontario. Our mission is to provide quality news, information, and entertainment to the residents of Thunder Bay and Northwestern Ontario, and it connects businesses, organizations, and governments with them. So that's our identity and who we are and what our mission is as an organization. CFNO, your hometown sound. I think Al can speak more to what CFNO is than I ever could. So I'll leave that for him. Lynn's here today, Al's here today, I'm here today, Chris Dorota, Director of Engineering, and Derek Lennox. So what we were here to talk about is trying to locate a new CFNO repeater within the contours of the township of Manitouwadge. I'm sure everybody's been frustrated through the years that as soon as you get close to the township, the signal sort of buzzes out, and we've heard before the reason is because Manitouwadge is sort of located in a bowl and it's right on the edge of our maze repeater. So we've always been aware that it's kind of an issue, and then as soon as we have, as we recently experienced troubles with our main antenna at Maze, the first community that's hit the worst is Manitouwadge, which is on the edge anyways, but we've had some challenges recently with that, and I'll let Mr. Dorota fill you in on what happened and why. Ideally, what we would like to do is locate a repeater on the CRC tower. I'll let Chris tell you why a little bit, but that is the best option that we've researched. And we have looked at all the options, including the ones that were brought forward and ideas that were brought forward by the township previously as well. So we've gone and done our due diligence to find out which one is going to be most effective, cheapest, and easiest to do, basically. The equipment, what we're going to talk about today is we would like the equipment to be owned by the township of Manitouwadge and maintained by Google Media under a maintenance agreement, and that would be something that we wouldn't charge back the township for. We would basically do that as a matter of our ongoing maintenance of our transmitter assets throughout the region. This would improve the quality of the signal currently broadcast from Naze. So this signal would be delivered by broadband. So if ever we have trouble with Naze or any of our other nodes in the future, that broadband signal will still be reliable here in the community. It will no longer be coupled to Naze whatsoever, and it will provide a lot more reliability for the community. And as we can see, you know, this summer, and I'll let Al speak to it a little bit, with things like forest fires and whatnot, reliability is really key for the residents of the communities in which we serve. So it's another reason why we're here, is we strive to improve what it is that we're able to do. So I'd like to throw it over there to Mr. Cresswell to tell us a little bit about what the community has said about what we're talking about.
I gotta keep this as a family show. First of all, good evening, your worship and council, and congratulations, Tori, on being elected as the newest councillor. I notice you haven't got a sign yet, but Jim's getting that one for you. My back's to you, and I apologize. You know, I'm just gonna turn this around, if you don't mind, just a bit, because 93% of these people were at the graduation last season. And I spoke at the graduation about the fact that we were gonna be here tonight. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna BS you, is the fact that it really bothers me that we cannot get in your home. And our advertising, I mean, just the fact that I cannot sit there and talk to you and tell you about highway closure on 614, the fire approaching from White River, coming in from the Hornpain area. It bothers the heck, and I said that to you last Thursday. So I had to get Mr. Google here to say that listen, we gotta get a game plan together. Because this is BS and it's not gonna go on longer. We need Manitouwadge. All right, it's only an hour away from Marathon. It was 9 degrees when I left today, 24 here. So we do need the heat from Manitouwadge. Now, having said that, Mr. Moffat, yourself, you've been a councillor for years. Florence McLean and I have talked before you were elected. The fact that CFNO is an integral part of everybody's life in this area. Yeah, they're serious. Yes, they're CBC, and they're fantastic, doing a great job. But when it comes to local news and aspects, it is CFNO, and I pride myself on doing that. The fact that if there's a story, and I have a choice between Hornpain and Thunder Bay, the Hornpain story is going to be in the news. Okay, Thunder Bay can get their own story. Sorry about that, but it's true. It's absolutely true. It's the same thing. They do the same thing over there. There's going to be something in Chippewa Park. They're not going to worry about something that's happening in Winnie the Pooh's backyard in White River. So it's just the fact that every time you wake up in the morning, it is CFNO. It really is. And where they have maybe a little bit of time and how much they listen. Well, here it's the radio goes on at 6 in the morning. It's on so you go to bed at night, all day in the car, in the businesses and everything. And that was upsets me is the fact we can't get that right now, but we are working on it. We really are working on it. And I know it's yeah, you're just saying that. No, we really are. You're gonna be talking to Chris later on, he'll be telling you exactly with video and photos rather of what is going on at the transmitter site. It was the perfect storm that we had in terms of all the commotion, the downed trees, the road being blocked to get into there. And of course, our problem was not really our problem, but it was 412 feet up in the air. That was the problem. And we rely on CBC to correct it. And of course, we're playing second fiddle. We need them to help us to help you. How many people were upset this past winter with road closures? There was one every second day. There really was. How important is CFNO? School bus status. How many school buses were canceled this year? You know, you gotta have CFNO. You really do. The forest fire situation. Tara Anderson Hart and I became best friends over the last month or so because of the situation raging in her community. 2 forest fires. And there's nothing I like better. And then when they come up to me and say, oh, you know what? I'll be honest with you, Al. I know what goes on in Manitowoc, and they're in Long Lac, or they're in Nippigan. I can tell you now exactly. I didn't realize Highway 631 went from White River up to Horn Bay. I didn't realize that. We were coming in from the Sioux, and it's just, that's to me what I've been doing for 19 years, making this a community, not just Manitowoc versus Marathon versus Long Lac versus Duberville. It is the importance of CFNO. So that's why I'm putting my faith in Mr. Dougal and Dougal Media to get the problem rectified to the best of your ability so that you know what's going on. You're not left out. You're not left out. You guys will realize, yes, Manitowoc is very important to the CFNO family. You and I have talked, your worship, how many times? You know, just about regularly we do. And Florence before that, Miss McLean over there, that we did to make sure that you people get your news on the air. Is the pool opening up? Is the ice going in? Is the ski hill opening up? You got to ski your snowmaker, all that type of stuff that's important to your community. It has to go on the air so people know. And that's all I'm going to say to that right now, sir. But I hope I have a job tomorrow.
You know, a lot of things that Alice said resonates with me, and part of the tenure of my ownership as the steward of the Dougal Media stations is to be responsible to the communities in which we serve, and also to listen to Al, who is the voice of the community. And he says that we need to deal with this. Then that's why we're here. And it's also why I'm not here on Zoom tonight and I'm here in person, not because I enjoy driving through the construction project known as Highway 17 between here and Thunder Bay, but because the Manitowoc is important to us. It's not economically important to us, but what it is, it's the people. The people are important to us. The region is important to us. The communities which we serve are important to us, and that's why we're here today. I'd like to throw it over to Chris DeRoda, our chief engineer, to just sort of update you a little bit in terms of some of the challenges we've been facing and then what we plan on doing moving forward with a repeater here in Manitowoc if we're successful. Go ahead, Chris.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. And first and foremost, I just want to thank Al for his very impassioned speech. I can't think of a better face for presentation than Mr. Al Creswell. So thank you very much for that, Al. So ladies and gentlemen, of course, with the ongoing issues we faced at Maze, we hear you. Absolutely in no uncertain terms, we hear you. Maze has always been representationally for us as an organization, our CN Tower. In the early days of CFNO, with all the repeater sites we've had around the region, every single site relied specifically on Maze in order to get a signal, even a repeater signal. If there was ever any issue at Maze, everybody was affected. Everyone's been impacted. The one major step forward that we've been taking from an engineering perspective is we've been moving our sites more and more to local repeaters with newer modernized gear fed over broadband internet. And what we've seen out of this is now all of a sudden we don't have the same past pinch points that we've always faced. And that's benefited many communities in the sense that we don't have to rely on what once was our personal CN Tower, our Northwestern Ontario CN Tower, to cover these regions. So touching more on what Al was suggesting, this is a CBC-owned site. And not to say that we don't have a wonderful relationship with CBC, and not to say that our engineering groups get along very well with each other. They do. They absolutely do. From a broadcast engineering perspective, we all carry the same mutual respect for each other in our jobs and what we do. But unfortunately, when it comes to the CBC overall, Nays as a site is what's rated as NM5, which is their lowest priority site, unfortunately. And as an NM5 site, it means if there's more important things going on, like say, for instance, at the actual CN Tower in Toronto, that's going to take priority and they're going to pool resources towards that. So the one challenge that we face in that is when we actually reach priority in CBC's perspective. So if we look at the picture second from the left, that's what Al was referring to at 412 feet up in the air. That is what the inside of a high power FM transmission line looks like when water penetrates it and it burns. And unfortunately, when you have that type of damage that occurs, you are more than just off the air. You may have even caused some level of damage to the transmitters in the site itself. So when we look at what's involved, the CBC and their crews, our rigging crews from West Tower, and then any of the staff, myself and anybody on site at Dougal Media, we pulled out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of linear feet of trees just to get up the road. In the winter months when we were first trying to troubleshoot this, it was a struggle just to get to site really before we could even fully analyze the problem. The one big thing that we accomplished this past spring, which we're very, very proud of and very happy about, is we launched a full standby transmission system, which is completely independent of CBC's transmission system. If you look at the first picture from left, you can see that is the brand new antenna array that went up on Nays Tower at about the 250-foot mark. What that does is it gives us at least some level of control that if our shared facilities that we're leasing from CBC have a failure, such as we see in the picture second from the left, we can flip that on and at least maintain some level of coverage for the region. This is something that we've been looking to attain for quite some time. It comes at quite an expense, but we do this as a continued push for the region. And going back to what Hector was saying, it's important to us that we remain on the air. From licensing to engineering spec to rigging crews to CBC involvement to ordering and fulfilling all the equipment involved, the time frame was fairly massive to get this done. And I can say now today successfully that we're on the air at licensed power with our own standby transmission system at Nays Provincial Park. Derek, would you do me a favor? Could you go back to Hector's second slide for me? If you look at the coverage map there, that's a very important indicator. And this is the ongoing issue we've always faced in the Manitowoc community. If we look at that black dotted line, that represents the edge of capable license contour based on what we're allowed by the CRTC. And if you look at that little blue dot just beyond that, that represents the major region within Manitowoc, we can see that that coverage gradient is just outside of it. There is absolutely nothing that we could accomplish further at the Nays site to further penetrate within Manitowoc, which is why the major push is to get a repeater directly in it and make sure that the repeater isn't in any way reliant on Nays as well, which will allow us to maintain a better quality of service and better quality of signal, regardless of any CBC involvement or the Nays site within itself. If you could take me to the second slide of ours, Derek. So if we add, if we're talking about coverage within the Manitowoc community, adding a repeater on the CRC tower seems to be the best point of coverage for many logistical reasons, site access, as well as just even rigging. We have a very, very strong relationship with CRC in the region already. It's definitely allowed us to leverage much more sites within much more of the Northwestern Ontario communities. And we would love to do nothing more than carry forward that relationship and bring that into the township Manitowoc as well. So installing on the CRC tower seems to be the absolute best foot forward. Not only that, they have so many available rigging points on that tower, which makes the engineering side of it a little more straightforward, especially when we have to consider things like wind loading and weight of the array itself. When we talk about the equipment, Derek, if you go back one slide. If we look at the picture third from the left, that is representational of what a repeater site looks like. Actually, I believe that one in particular is White River. Oh, no, sorry, my mistake. That one is Hornepayne. That is located in the water tower in Hornepayne. Basically, by having this small footprint system in place within a CRC building in Manitouwadge, we can easily cover the entire town, and we can easily penetrate within homes and not have any of these fringe area issues that we face from the NACE transmission signal. So I just want to reiterate again that our commitment to making this project whole and making it as viable and successful for the community of Manitouwadge is wildly important to us. And we would love nothing more than to be able to step forward with this and offer this to the community. And I think that's about it for me.
So, Chris, did you want to talk about where we are in our project timeline so far?
Absolutely, Hector, and thank you. So if we look at the current phase of check, we are actually just in phase 3 from Dougal Media's perspective, and that's actually looking to launch a technical brief. So basically within the technical brief, the idea there is we get all of our gradation, all of our RF contours and everything else that we need within the community to determine what height our antenna needs to be at, whether the site is viable, and whether or not we can pull a license for site and actually install there. So at this point in time, at the 8 to 12 month mark, which is around the amount of time we've been spending internally on this to develop feasibility studies and everything else in between, we're making great progress, and we're at the ability now where we can actually start aligning ourselves for a technical brief and then begin to actually pull a license for testing period. So the one thing I really want to bring to council's attention as well is at this point in time, before we even make a foot forward, this is just to further enhance and show our level of commitment to the project and the process. We're somewhere in the region of about $20,000 into the project as a whole at this point in time, give or take. And that's not without even realizing whether or not we're moving forward with this. So I just want to bring that up as how far we're willing to commit to this project on behalf of the constituents of Manitouwadge. We believe it's a very important next step for us as a group, and we believe the benefits to the community will be very high. At this time, I'll pass it along to Derek Lennox to.
I just want to, thanks, Chris. I just want to jump in there for a second, saying if we don't have council support for this project, they're not on the hook for the 20 grand.
Oh, of course not. Absolutely.
we just took the risk, but next up is our chief financial officer, Mr. Derek Lennox, and he'll let you know a little bit about what we've done on the finance side.
And thanks, Hector. Thanks, Chris. And thanks to your worship, Jim Morris, Mayor of the Township of Manitouwadge, and Council. Just to summarize a couple elements there on that timeline and the budget split. When we did our original pitch last year, and then the draft feasibility studies that came out of it, we looked at a couple different funding opportunities where we're combining everything together into a larger fund. That I'll give you the summary of that in the next slide, but it didn't go down as well as we would have liked to have had at that point. So hence we're coming back, and now similar to what we did in Beardmore and in other townships, we've done an arrangement to work with the township to cover some of the costs, and we'll cover some of the costs. And that's where the split is on the bottom. The part in orange is the ask of Manitouwadge, of the Township of Manitouwadge, and the blue is the hard cost for Dougal Media. In this case, it would fall under a couple of the specifically held companies, including the one that holds CFNO. And as what Hector pointed out, those are our sunk dollars in the blue, and that will remain sort of how that splits between the overall project budget. So if you see the lines, it's about $45,000 in equipment that we will be asking of the township to buy, and they will own it. And then on our side, those are the extra hard costs that we have to put out in addition to some of our manpower and other elements on that side. I just want to also highlight from a budget timing perspective, we will begin on approval, and that's why we have the little orange Township of Manitouwadge approval arrow. We're in that end of phase 2, beginning of phase 3. On approval, we can begin to put together the technical briefs, which go to the organization, ICD, which will help us make sure that the signals do not cross over with any of the other ones that are being put on that tower. I know that was a question that the administrator had. And it is part of that process that we clarify that and make sure that is safe and separate. And then also on the CRTC side, we do need to put in a submission to get approval to put the repeater in. So both of those become the process that we then begin. So hence that can take, we guidelined 8 to 12 months. That could be plus or minus a few months in that process. So the ask wouldn't be for, a year to a little bit after that, where we would need in that phase 4, the first amount for equipment as well as into phase 5. And depending on the timing of when we want the construction to occur, as well as when we get approvals, that will be something that we would want to work with the administration on to confirm the timing of the start of the installation and when we would need that. So there is some flexibility. This would not be, I understand you're in the budgeting process at this time, but just from that point of view, we wouldn't need funding until next year once we have approval from the CRTC and the ISEDD. So that's from a timing perspective. I wanted to kind of loop back for one more moment on a bit of history on what we've covered off. There were several funds that when we looked at this originally may have been eligible for it, and they were not. NOHFC has closed down anything to do with radio projects. The FedNor, when we had conversations with them, were not ready to reopen for this type of project, even on an infrastructure level. And the CRTC fund that was originally put in place for this was earmarked only for smaller community local stations, which through conversations are basically on First Nations small transmitters. So the project costs, as noted, were reworked from the feasibility study document that the administration has taken a peek at and provided feedback to us. And we worked it so that there's a portion of equipment that would be owned by the township and then costs that we would incur. And the idea would be that at the point in phase 6, and I'll have that summary in our final request, that we would outline a specific service level agreement as part of a maintenance contract to make sure that we are maintaining that equipment that you would own and that we're keeping our signal qualities to the level that we need for CRTC and for ISED. And we would also like to ensure that we continue the conversation. I know you're already using CFNO for ongoing communications and alerts, and the idea would be to continue that conversation and to look at other ways that we can continue to use and rely on CFNO for messaging at that same time period. Hector, do you want to add anything before I provide the summary notice?
Yeah, I would just, well, you know what, I'll let you provide the summary and then I'll do the wrap.
Sounds good. So in summary, it'll take us about a year before we can get to the stage where we would need the funding support. And the idea is that we were asking for approximately $45,000 for the purchase of the equipment, which would be owned by the Township of Manitowoc. We would be developing a maintenance level agreement. So that way, if it's priority to keep the signal on, we're out. If it's general maintenance, we would have to follow a normal service requirement agreement that we have with communities such as Hornpain and Beardmore. And then we would, of course, want to be able to have the conversations to continue with the communication alert planning at that same time. So that way the township would be able to leverage what we're offering from a CFNO perspective on the air. Hector, do you want to summarize or add to that?
I'm going to just give it to Al for some comments here.
Yeah, if you don't mind, thank you. Just a general question. Is there still, I'll ask you if you don't mind, Your Worship, is there still an economic development corporation here in Manitowoc per se,
Yes,
There
there
is
is the Manitowoc Economic Development Corporation, and actually there's at least one member in the audience that I know of.
That's the one.
That's the one.
All right, thank you so much.
So I'll just sort of sum it up. We don't have an economic model to do this. We need help. We have researched all from our end to the best of our ability, the available funding buckets that are out there. And thank you very much for the support of the administration of the township and helping us through that process. We've done our best. We've tried to beat the bushes everywhere we can. We've reviewed the project to find out where we can reduce project costs. But in order to make this a reality, we're gonna need $45,000 from the township, and that's what we're here today to ask you for. Are there any questions?
Yes, through the chair. So when it comes to these kinds of projects, Mr. Peters and other places, do you have similar agreements with other communities, or was this necessary with other communities in that aspect?
So maybe Chris, I'll throw that to you. I do believe we have a maintenance agreements with Beardmore.
Beardmore and Hornpayne both have a very similar arrangement where the townships actually own the equipment, and then we do maintain a service level and a maintenance level agreement with them. And of course, during any emergency situations where it's a full-blown outage, then we dispatch in a priority fashion.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Through the chair. So this, that previous unit had like suffered water damage and whatnot, right?
Yes,
So say, you know, Manitowoc had this same setup, and a year down the road, by chance, it suffered the same fate. How would this be replaced? Is there any type of warranty or?
I'll let Chris answer that question. Chris?
So in the case of what we look at, Nays versus what we're proposing for the township, when we talk about Nays, that's what's called a combined site. So CBC owns the antenna, and then they have a large combining network that allows them to put their transmitters onto one antenna, as well as CFNO's primary transmitter at a very, very high power. So essentially what happened in that particular case, because of just literally the size and the power levels that we were dealing with there, it's a situation where if a seal goes in a certain way, it's guaranteed to burn. The major difference between a large transmission system at a large site like that at that particular height versus what we're proposing for the CRC site is it's operated at a much lower power. It uses much simpler transmission lines that are much easier to seal and much easier to interconnect, which means that the potential rate of failure or likelihood of failure for those particular types of problems are substantially lower. But that doesn't negate the facts of your original question, what happens in case of. So traditionally, when we talk about any of the other sites with similar maintenance agreements, if something fails tower level, tower side, or in the transmission line down the tower, or within the equipment within the hut, it depends on the type of failure. If it's within the agreement that it's a lightning strike or disastrous weather or something like that, that'll have to be defined within the confines of the maintenance agreement to see who's on the hook for the costs. Otherwise, traditionally, when it came to transmission line and tower work, normally we've covered that type of replacement. When we're talking about a class A low power 1 to 300 watt system like what we're proposing for Manitowoc, the costs associated with that are much lower comparatively to sites say like Nays, which is a much larger antenna array with a much larger transmitter and therefore a much higher upfront cost. So depending on the guise of the actual agreement that we come to as far as how maintenance is handled, ownership of equipment, etc., we would have to determine best course, but normally from an antenna level, that's usually covered by us.
We try and if there's any way we can fix it, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
And if it breaks down within warranty, there's warranty. And if it's going beyond warranty, I think then we'll have a discussion and it's something that we'll put inside the maintenance agreement and figure out how we're gonna deal with it.
On a side note, when it comes to these smaller level systems that are running between 100 and 300 watts ERP for the community repeater sites, mean time to failure and rate of failure over the course of years has been exceptionally low. And traditionally, when we talk about high power FM broadcasting, that's where we have the larger types of faults, and that's where we usually have the larger cost and larger scale repairs in order to rectify them. This is another slated example as to the benefit to having it localized. On the smaller scale, not only do you have better quality of signal localized to the community, But the upfront costs and the downtime in general, because of the scope and scale of the equipment we're dealing with, are much more timely to rectify. Whereas when we're talking about the larger scale, it's usually mean time or lead time from manufacturing, which could take months, or as we can identify with the original maze problem with CVC, up to 4 months and beyond. So that's another rationalization behind maintaining a low power perspective locally as opposed to relying on the high power on the fringe.
I'll try to translate from Chris. I guess what he's saying is that smaller site, less problems, more reliable than the site we're gonna have in Marathon.
Okay.
Thank you, Hector.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, through you, the chair. Since this receiver is gonna be, it's not like Maze at all, right? It's a smaller one. What would be the effective range of this receiver? Would it be able to reach, say, Karamat, or is it just covering Manitowoc?
Derek, could you go back to that slide?
Okay, so it's that circle there, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, halfway to Stevens.
And in the written document, I believe there should be a feasibility study that was also included in the package you got, which has a better outline of it, because it's not exactly an oval. It's kind of more of a bumpy circle, but that's the major footprint area that gets added with that transmitter.
Okay. Any other questions?
Through the chair. So generally, is there a maintenance agreement initiated prior to support given? Like, are those details figured out prior to township support?
Right. Well, I mean, it would be an agreement as part of the process that we would work out amongst ourselves to figure out, just so that we know. We always have to negotiate what happens when stuff happens before we're committed. So I would anticipate that we would do that. And I think we would use our Hornpain and our Deardmore agreements as a template for what we would do. And we're, of course, happy to share that with the council if they so wish to see. Of course, they're welcome to make, discussions, amendments, etc. That would happen with our engineering team, but that would give the basic outlines of what we do. We're not looking to make this difficult for the township. We're not looking to play gotcha and things like that. We're trying to do the best that we can to provide a service, given that the economic case for it is really thin. And Chris has and his team have they're like the engineers on the Starship and the Starship Enterprise, right? I mean, the shields keep failing and the dilithium crystals aren't working, and those guys always find a way. They'll call people up across the country in order to borrow equipment where needed. It's service to community, which drives us, and that's always at the forefront of our minds. So we're not going to sit there and start saying you said this and we said this. Our goal is always to have that signal up for the community.
The other question that I may be able to link, and I have for Chris, would we actually be able to develop the maintenance level agreement in phase 4 rather than phase 6? So that way it can be put on approval, basically, as long as the maintenance service level arrangement is met. You don't put out a cent until that happens. Because right now it's in phase 6 just because of timing of work, but it may make more sense if the township feels more comfortable that we do it there. We make that a gate, if you will.
Within phase 3 and 4, and especially within phase 3, because that's going to identify the absolute specifics of how high the antenna is, how much transmission line is being used, and therefore we'll get a better sense of the type of potential repair or the type of potential maintenance we'll have to do down the road. If we manage to build a maintenance level or service level agreement out inside of phase 3 leading into phase 4, then that would absolutely identify what our responsibilities look like going forward, and the council can be well aware of what they're entitled to as far as any maintenance that we would provide in whatever timely fashion that is agreed to.
Any other questions? Well, I have a couple. For starters, that, the broken part on the Nays Tower. You say that's CBC's responsibility? Do they have any plans to repair that? And would that bring the wattage or frequency back to par as it was?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So in my last conversation with the engineering group over at CBC, they have been actively working to get the new parts manufactured. They've already put the order in placement in. They're dealing with some of the same types of lead times that we're discussing within this proposal as well, whereas they're anywhere from 4 to 6 months out from time of order to time of delivery. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. They are 100% committed to getting both of their stations back up and running, because both CBC French and CBC English, for the most part, are partially on the air with the standby system that they have in place. But they are committed to going back to full power, and within that, we're committed to going back to full power on 93.1 on the original transmission system as well.
Okay, well, to me, that's, great news. It's a matter of time. Like CFNO, I've been a longtime resident of Manitowoc. I've been listening to CFNO since back, was it in the 80s it started? 82. Well, I remember the first day it came on the air. Okay, I don't remember the date, but I remember where I was. Okay, so which is great. And from then until now, not once have I ever been able to get it in my home. Okay, so I've learned to adapt, just like a lot of people. CFNO.FM, I listen to every morning because I have Wi-Fi, and everybody has Wi-Fi. So that brings CFNO into your home, which is great. There's certain times that when I was out in my vehicle, I wanted to listen to CFNO for the local news, for all the good stuff. So I have an app on my phone, which you guys provide. It's great. Yes, it costs me data, but I can listen to it in my vehicle because of that. So what I'm saying is, with all the technology coming up, I have a really hard problem swallowing $45,000 at this point in time, especially knowing that CBC could repair it and we'll be back to normal. And I understand what you're saying to be independent. So, like I said, I'm really on the fence on this one, but these are things that, people are still getting CFNO in their home because they want it so bad, they learned how to adapt.
And we invested in that app
And that's
in
awesome.
order to make it really good quality, so that, to try and fill in some of the gaps and the holes. All I can do is maybe ask Al again, sorry, Al. Okay, for sure. Just ask Al again, why the radio? Why have, given that people have had an opportunity to adapt, why is the radio still important?
Well, thank you. It's common sense. I mean, I don't want to blow my own horn here. I just want to have people know that for the last 19 years since I came here from Wawa, it's just that I know people just to call up and for anything, contests, fires, you name it, what's going on with road closures, bus cancellations, council meeting reports. It is a part of your lifestyle. It's become a part of, like, not just Manitowoc, but Beardmore, Hornpain, Long Lac, Nikina, Nipigon, you name it. It's all just, they finally find out what's going on in the region. And in today's society, where you can just click on you said your phone, you can get something over in China, you can get the 70s on 7, you can get 80s on 8. It's just, yeah, okay, you can get that country highway, whatever it is, but at the same time too, they don't have what's going on at last night's council meeting in Manitowoc. They don't know if there's going to be a strike in Nikina. They have no idea if there's going to be able to shovel my driveway this winter because of budget cuts in Terrace Bay. So I just know personally, and I'll speak back to them, is I take that personally. I really do. I want to make sure that you guys are all informed of what's going on. Don, you and I with the fires, what's going on. We had no fire chief in Marathon. Unfortunately, he had left, went to Kirkland Lake. Your fire chief came in as the intern and gave us all the information as to pertaining regarding an RFZ, restricted fire zone. And the other people say, yeah, he did that because he wanted to get the message of it. That's how important CFNO is to the daily lives. And if I can get somebody coming in from Beardmore to help out, we got your fire chief here to help out. We're a family.
Mhm.
And right now, we have part of our family not sitting at the supper table. And pardon my English, it's pissing me off.
And,
Really, it is. And you know, we
and I
talked
totally
about-
agree, yeah, and like, for example, last week I was in Newfoundland, okay?
Yeah.
I
And,
was here.
yeah, but every morning I got up, I had my coffee, I turned on my computer, CFNO.FM, and I listened to it. Okay, so that's something that in this day and age, all you need is Wi-Fi, which is great.
You know, just to one last thing is, and you know, and that's one of the reasons that we did that,
Mhm.
is to try and fill in the gaps. But the people who don't have data, the people who still are relying on their radio, are also some of the people on the low end of the economic spectrum.
Mhm. Oh, and I appreciate that.
And that's something that we care about is all residents. So yeah, if you got lots of data. I mean, you know, what's funny is I have two stepgirls. And we don't allow them to have data, right? So they are going everywhere, running around looking for the Wi-Fi. But if you think about that,
Mhm.
about kids and other people who just don't have that Wi-Fi data. There's more, it's more than you might think. It's also people traveling from somewhere else that won't use because they don't want to roam and use up their data. I was reminded about that by the city of Thunder Bay, who wanted us to continue to publish the tourism maps. It's because people coming in don't want to use Google to go navigate downtown Thunder Bay because they don't want to pay for data. They want to have something in print that they can still do. So I ended up printing maps again. But it's the same thing. There are more people than you might think who don't have access to Wi-Fi that are able to pick that up. And so that's the best way that I could answer the why. And Al's point is we want everyone at the table.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to add one more item to that question as well. As part of the feasibility study, we actually had Lynn go to the Facebook pages that are the township ones. And they asked input from a bunch of community members of whether or not they needed the radio, whether the apps were good. And there was, you know, dozens of people on each of the couple of Facebook pages that said that they rely on CFNO and they really wish it was in their house. And even though they kind of sort of use it once in a while on their computers, they don't have the data packages and they want to be able to do it in their backyards or wherever else they can hear radio. So it still came in fairly strong from the community as part of that there was a need from the members that they wanted to have traditional radio and not necessarily linked to a Wi-Fi data package that they do or don't necessarily have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Yes. Okay. And further, that council thank Google Media for attending and providing the presentation to council. And further, that council direct staff to bring back a report regarding the request for assistance for a CFNO repeater in Manitowoc at a further meeting of council.
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
regarding that, can we have part of that report be looking into or possibly partnership with additional funding? Or I know they've looked into other funding,
Is there a way we could help them look into funding? Is that what you're saying?
or even the township themselves look into funding that they may not have found or
That's true.
covered or.
I'm sure that could be part of the report. Right?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
That definitely could be part of the report. Okay. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Thank you, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you. Where are we?
Adoption of minutes.
Oh, adoption of minutes. Okay.
And it,
Sorry.
Oh,
Oh,
I was just confirming, I just leave the meeting now. Chris and I can,
oh, yes.
yes.
I've reclaimed the
Thank you for
host.
attending. Thank you for presenting.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, moved by Councillor Keough, seconded by Councillor Hudson, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 24th, 2023 are adopted as circulated. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Craddock, Resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held June 13th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. All in favor? No petitions. Correspondence. Anybody want to bring down any correspondence? Okay, moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Keo. Resolved that correspondence item 08-01 to 08-02 be received and filed. All in favor? Okay. Reports from the committees. Moved by Councillor Kotick, seconded by Councillor Hudson, resolved that the minutes of the meeting of the Thunder Bay District Board of Health held May 17th, 2023 be accepted as received. All in favor? Okay. Verbal update by the mayor. I hope everybody was informed with the presentation from CFNO, and I want to congratulate Tony Lynn Ruff as our new counselor.
Thank you.
And I will pass it on to you.
Thank you for you, Mr. Chair. The delegation that had been scheduled with Barrett this evening was canceled. And is rescheduled as a community meeting on Monday, July the 10th at 10:30 a.m. It will be approximately an hour long. Public is welcome to attend, and more information on the subject matter is available on our Facebook page. And an email also went out to the registered residents using My Manitowoc. Special thanks to staff for their hard work in coordinating and working the July 1st celebrations. So community services, Trish, please thank your staff, as well as the hardworking crew in Public Works for all their work downtown. And to Chief Kruger, we look forward to fireworks when it is safe to do so. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on to business. Moved by Councillor Keo, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report FD monthly 23-04 submitted by Don Kruger, Fire Chief, regarding Fire Department monthly report.
Good evening, through you, Mr. Chair. I'll take any questions. I know it was a fairly lengthy report because I haven't been here to actually do a monthly report, so fire away.
Any questions?
No, just the comments, like we've been fairly busy with training and education and big calls.
Yes, I'm very happy to report that the tower issue that's been an ongoing thing for 2 years is now done. Ironically, our new equipment is set up at the CRC tower. My question would have been, have they been up to that site to see if there's room for all of their equipment? But that will have to wait.
Okay,
And yes, as Mr. Cresswell noted, I am also still working as the intern chief for Marathon as well. The new chief there has been hired. He starts August 8th. So I will be in the interim role until that time. And they have asked me if I would go down and spend some time with him after he first starts, just to kind of walk him through his first few days. So we don't have dates for that just yet.
okay, well, thank you very much.
Through you, the chair. I have a question actually. Could you elaborate more on the CRC tower, what kind of work you were doing there, or is that not something?
Yeah, so all the communications equipment for the fire department and public works were on the CBC tower. That tower has been decommissioned and is being torn down. So we had to move all of our equipment off of that tower. We moved it to the CRC tower, which is where it is now. And so all of our equipment was in their shed at the base of that tower now. And it is a relatively small tower, or a small shed. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. But, you know, just to do that, but, all of our equipment is now on the CRC.
Yeah, any questions?
Through the chair, so by like August, you'll be able to do wet certification?
Yes, actually, yes, I have to, as part of the certification progress, I had to, process. I have to wait 80 weeks after I completed the course in order to be done the certification process, so. I haven't done the math, but it'll be sometime this month, I will have completed the 80 weeks. And then I will be certified to do what certification.
Okay, just have a reminder for people to speak a little louder into the mic, because there's people that can't hear, so. I'm not pointing to anybody specific, but. So, thank you very much. We really appreciate all the things you do, and I'm sure Marathon really appreciates also that you are helping them out in the same situation. They helped us out
Yes,
before your arrival, so thank you.
thank you.
Okay, and further that council received the fire chief's monthly report as presented. All in favor? Okay, and next. Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Kotick. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report CS 2023-02 submitted by Trish Boileau. 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 C'est français, Boileau. Director of Community Services regarding Oasis pool repair. You're on.
Thank you, the chair and council members. So you guys, if they had a chance to review the report, so I'll just open it up for any questions.
You're up.
Through the chair. So with all the money that we acquired, my question is, the money that we received from NWML, would it be possible to use some of that to help with during grants, whatever we need to get this done? So through the chair, yes, I mean, we have access to that funding, so that's a necessary aspect of achieving grant money or the different avenues that are available. And absolutely do that.
You speak in the mic a little clearer. Thank you.
That's the-
That's better. Can everybody back there hear her?
No, you gotta,
Oh, see,
you have to speak right into
yeah,
it.
right into it.
Okay.
That's better.
Any other questions?
But, okay, any other questions?
Through the chair, just well, more of a comment there. It was definitely shocking to see the state of the pool. It's definitely in rough shape. So it'd be interesting to see with this what the recommendations and the costs are to repair it.
Through the chair, duly noted, yes. It's a few things that have to be assessed, and the overall picture has to be looked at for sure.
It's, so in summary, when they were here for a couple days, a couple weeks ago, they repaired the, what is it, 100 feet of pipe?
No, so
They,
they opened it up to have a look at the camera, the pipe, and assess where the deficiencies were. And then they established that there was 100 feet of pipe that will have to be replaced, of 6-inch pipe. So that's just one aspect of the mechanical repairs that will have to be attended to. And that was coming in at a quarter of about $40,000 cost to repair just that 6-inch pipe. So we need to delve deeper, pardon the pun, and look at some mechanical aspects, electrical aspects, the condition of the pool, deck itself, the pool, and the bigger picture, so to speak, and get an actual cost understanding for sure.
okay, so just to summarize, that's $30,000 to $40,000 to fix that 100 feet of pipe that's broken.
That's correct.
And, but we have not committed to that.
No.
What is being asked here is that we spend $8,000 for a total look, I guess you would call it, a total estimate of all the costs and what it would cost to bring it all up to par. So including that pipe, including the nut, the liner if it's needed. And all the concrete damage all over.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's what the $8,000 would give us.
And that's an estimate. We'll get a definite quote from the engineering company shortly, but we estimate it to cost about that much for them to come and give us an entire picture of exactly that, yes. And a cost understanding of the entire full picture from deck to mechanical to ground to lighting to electrical and see what we're looking at for the near future. For the cost.
Okay, and something I just want to throw out there just through social media. Comments that last year and the year before, the reason that the pool was not able to open was due to COVID and the provincial laws and not because we didn't go through with trying to repair it.
Yes, that's correct. So in 2020, 2021, COVID restrictions shut the pool down. In 2022, my understanding was difficulty of getting contractors to assess just based on our geographical location and it was difficult to obtain somebody to come and have a look and do this initial assessment. So that's where we're at when we're coming into the 2023 season.
Perfect. That's why I just want to let the public know that, yes, we're working on it and yes, we are doing our best.
Absolutely.
Without spending a lot of taxpayers' dollars.
You bet. You hit it on the head.
Okay, so that's where we're sitting.
So through the chair, follow up to that, do you know on approval that of this tonight, when they could come back and do this full assessment?
I do not have a timeline at this point, so we are hoping for this summer, this season. But I have not seen that exactly the timeline.
So we can honestly say that there will be no pool this season, but we're hoping to see exactly what it is and repair it for next, if we go ahead with it.
That's right. So in the condition it's currently in, it would be unsafe to operate the pool at this point. But we're going to do everything that we can to find out exactly what needs to be done. And I think there's funding resources available, as we discussed earlier, and I mentioned in the reports. So we are working hard to get it up and going. It's just a matter of finding out what's wrong and what the cost is going to be, and we're going to work towards it.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, let's ask the question. And further that council approves staff to hire TBT Engineering to complete a full pool condition assessment at a cost of approximately $8,000. All in favor? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
So there was. Yeah,
But he didn't ask for a recorded vote.
no. Moved by Counselor. Where are we going? Okay, moved by Counselor Kotick, seconded by Counselor Keo. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report TR 2023-03 submitted by Aaron McGregor, Deputy Treasurer, regarding flat levy water and sewer final option.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'll do my best to speak up so that we can all hear. So at the June 13th council meeting, the report was presented, which presented flat rate water and sewer levy structure options. And at that time, council decided they would choose option B. All of these options were provided from a revenue neutral point of view with respect to the water meter program. So what's changed tonight with respect to these options being brought a second time is that first of all, there are a couple of adjustments that came to administration's attention that required adjustment. Second, we are looking at providing council the option to choose lower rates for multi-residential and commercial properties. Now, in the attached report in Appendix A, there are associated tax burden increases associated with these options. They are small tax burden increases that will likely be offset by savings as a result of removing the water meter program. If anybody has any questions about the specific adjustments, I'd be happy to take them. But in essence, what this is three options. Option one is the same structure that was adopted at the last meeting. Option two is the same structure at the last meeting with two to three minor adjustments. And option three is reductions to the rates charged to commercial, industrial, and multi-residential properties. I can take any questions.
Any questions? My question is on option three, which is the biggest discount for the commercial, how would that offset the missing amount? Where would that extra amount come from? Would it be?
Yeah, so the difference is $26,100 between option one and option three, option one being the option that's already been chosen. This would be recovered by approximately a 0.7% increase to our tax rate. That's a possibility. However, we won't know what the impact on the tax rate is until we've completed the budget process. Like I said, there are anticipated savings as a result of the cancellation of the water meter program. And further, an update from today actually is I did speak with Wolseley. They are typically our supplier of water meter equipment. They are back ordered on water meters, and we do have a inventory of water meters that we're looking to return to them. So right now we're in the process of putting together that inventory, and we will see some recovery of those costs as a result. So all of these things will be explored as part of the budget process. So I can't say what this will do to the tax rate right now, other than to say that a 0.7% tax rate increase would offset it. However, there are going to be other factors that affect the tax rate, and it could go many ways, depending on council's priorities as we go through the budget process.
Okay, because myself, I've heard from some businesses that at the level one is like basically doubling their water cost. Now, how true that is, I don't know. I haven't seen their bills, but I have no reason not to believe that they're being hit with an increase. So my thoughts are to go with option C, and hopefully it can be absorbed. If it is 0.7% in the budget, you know, then that's what it will be. Every town that I've heard of so far that has gone through their budget has had tax increases. So now, again, we haven't seen ours yet, and hopefully we can keep them low. But I go with my choice is option 3 or C. And any other comments?
No, I would say based on the new information and what Mayor Moffat said, I think option 3 is the best.
Yeah, given everything we know and what we saw, report you submitted last time, I do believe option 3 is the correct option.
Through the chair, off.
I have not received the report and I'm not comfortable making
Okay.
a decision on this.
Not a problem.
So I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, thank you. So I say we are comfortable with option 3 or C.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, and further that council adopts water and sewer levy structure option, is it C or 3?
3, I believe.
3. Okay. To be implemented effective July 1st, 2023 and billed following the same schedule as final property tax installments. And further that council directs staff to create and amend the applicable bylaw for council's approval. All in favor? Yeah. Okay. Okay, moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Kotick. Is resolved that council is in receipt of administration report admin 2023-21 submitted by Florence McLean, CAO regarding Manitowoc Municipal Housing Corporation. removal township as sole shareholder.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. First off, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Rita LeVay for attending this evening. If council has any questions as we review this report, and through Rita, I'd be happy to answer them. As you know, Manitowoc Municipal Housing Corporation was established in 1986, and it was established by the council of the day. Once the board of directors was elected and appointed by council, the ownership really transferred over to the board of directors. The Housing Corporation did apply for funding through CMHC to construct the units that are here. That has no financial implication for the township of Manitowoc. It's solely the responsibility of the Housing Corporation. They have operated independently outside of the scope of the township, with the exception of council appointing the board members and receiving a shareholders report on an annual basis. There are no financial ties, and in discussion with the board chair, John Zarens and Rita LeVay, starting back in September of last year, they have requested information about whether the township can be removed as the sole shareholder. We did get a legal opinion on that, but at the time there was a municipal election, and our legal counsel recommended that we wait until after the election to proceed. So we have received a letter earlier in June from the board chair, again initiating this conversation, and want to present the information to council for your review and consideration. I did speak with other municipalities that have removed themselves as shareholders that were in a similar situation, and they have done that successfully with no consequences or issues.
Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you. And further, that council is in support of removing the corporation of the township of Manitowoc as a sole shareholder of the Manitowoc Municipal Housing Corporation. And further, that council directs staff to initiate the legal process of removing the corporation of the township of Manitowoc as a sole shareholder of the Manitowoc Municipal Housing Corporation. All in favor? Okay. Bylaws. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Kotick, being a bylaw to enter into a conditional contribution agreement with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation through the People and the Talent Program, Workforce Development Stream for Chief Building Official and Environment Technician.
Intern.
Be it,
Sorry, intern.
oh, sorry, intern. Environment Technician intern. You read a first and second time. Want to elaborate on that?
Sure. Maybe I'll talk about both bylaws at the same time.
Perfect.
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff was successful in receiving funding through the Northern Ontario Heritage Corporation to fund 2 intern positions. One is a chief building official intern, and that would be in partnership with the Ontario Building Association. And our current chief building official, Paul Manzon, out of Thunder Bay, would supervise the intern and train this individual to eventually take over as CBO in the coming years. That position would also be overseeing the environmental technician component, specifically around working with Suncor and remediation of the oil spill behind Reddick's property. The second internship is an economic development officer, and so staff are requesting council to enter into an agreement to sign and authorize the contribution.
Are there any questions? Good, thank you very much. And furthermore, be ready third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-28. All in favor? Okay. Moved by Counselor Craddock, seconded by Counselor Keo, being a bylaw to enter into a conditional contribution agreement with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation through the People and Talent Program, Workforce Development Stream for a Manitowoc Economic Development intern, be read a first and second time. And furthermore, be read a third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-29. All in favor? Okay. Motions and notice of motions, none. Okay, close the session. Moved by Counselor Craddock, seconded by Counselor Hudson, whereas section 239(4) of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001 C25 provides that before holding a meeting or part of a meeting that is to be closed to the public, a municipality or local board or committee of either of them shall state by resolution that fact of holding of the closed meeting and the general nature of the matter be considered at the closed meeting. Now therefore be it resolved that this meeting is hereby closed to the public as the subject matter being discussed falls under the following section. Section 239(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees, staffing. Also, section 239(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including a municipal and local board employee, CAO recruitment. All in favor?